All right, well, welcome everyone. It is good to see you today. Thank you for coming out, and I hope you're enjoying your lunch. We have a very awesome presentation today from Shaina White, who is going to be talking to us more about how to prevent falls, especially in our homes. Shaina is an occupational therapist and an aging in place and home modification specialist. I hope I got that right. Wonderful. I was testing my memory today. Before we get started, I just want to share a little bit about our adult day center that's coming to Culpeper for you that are here and also for anyone who's watching this recording as well. I am the director for the new Generation Central Adult Day Center here at Culpeper Baptist, and we will be having a center here where senior adults can come during the day to receive care, to participate in activities, and to give their caregivers some respite. So this is for any senior adult who's been isolated, who may be recovering from a medical event, who is just looking for engagement. And who also may just need some extra support during the day. So if you know of anyone, please send them our way. We will be opening the center in January of 2022, and we're very excited, yes. So we're looking forward to that. We have a waiting list at the moment, so please feel free to contact us at the church or to email us at culpeperadultday@gmail.com. You can also visit us on Facebook at Adult Day Center at Culpeper. I'm trying to think of other things. Oh, the coolest part about our center is that we are co-located with the Child Development Center at Culpeper Baptist, so there's going to be a lot of really awesome opportunities to engage with the children there and to have these intergenerational experiences. So we're excited to be opening up a center where senior adults can feel purposeful and valuable and also have an opportunity just to connect with the community again. So with all that said, I'm now going to pass it over to Shaina, who's going to give us a great presentation today.
The pressure is on. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Sarah, for inviting me to come out to share. As she mentioned, I am an occupational therapist of almost 16 years now. I am from Memphis, Tennessee, so if you hear the accent, that's where it's from. I live in North Stafford with my family, and as I mentioned, I'm an occupational therapist, so I've worked in skilled nursing facilities as well as in home health settings. Thank you. As well as in home health settings. The population that I serve has ranged all the way from ages 18 all the way up to a very spry 106 years old. So it just tells you that there's value and purpose in all of us, whether the age, ability, or anything. You know, we're all precious in God's sight, and we all have value regardless of where we are in the ages, stages, and the seasons of our life. So this week is actually National Falls Prevention Week, and so I've connected with the National Council on Aging. They started out years ago with it just being a Falls Prevention Day, but of course there's so much that needs to be addressed, and there's such a great need for education and resources and advocacy methods and outreach to where it was expanded last year to a full week of activities and outreach. So again, that's the National Council of Aging. So I wanted to start off, my presentation is nicely titled, Enjoy Fall and Not Falls. Today is the last day of summer. So fall is coming. It's also a great time to talk about fall prevention because as the months get cooler, whether in the pandemic and even before so, is people tend to spend a lot more time inside. So just like animals begin to hibernate, so do we as people of all ranges. We're a lot less active. Maybe a lot of the fresher fruits and vegetables that we may eat and enjoy in the spring and summer. Our diets and activity habits change a bit as well as with the seasons. So before we go any further, I just want to thank everyone again for spending your lunch hour with me. So hopefully I can share and give a little bit more resources and support on Falls Prevention Week and beyond. Can we move to the next slide, please? All right. So the purpose is to raise awareness about how to prevent falls and falls-related injuries among older adults. And so we do that through education, advocacy, as well as action. Because no matter what type of information that we receive, if we don't implement changes and utilize best practices and professionals to help us, it's kind of half of the battle. So it's going a little bit beyond education to share with you some things that could help you or maybe those you're caring for or other loved ones or community members. Next slide, please. So defining a fall. Defining a fall. They don't always look like this lady falling on this mattress, do they? A lot of times falls go unreported because people don't realize that something that they have experienced is not actually a fall. So defining a fall would be something that is unplanned, sudden, where you're going from one level to another. So that could be something as tripping, knees giving in, anything where you're making an unplanned sudden movement in a downward trajectory. That doesn't always mean that it's going to be contact with the floor. That doesn't always mean that it's going to be that it's going to end in some type of injury. But a part of the reason why people don't get the help and the support that they need is because if their physician or their occupational or physical therapist asks about if they've had any falls or any balance issues, they'll say, no, I'm fine. Because in their mind, maybe they're thinking, well, I wasn't laid out on the floor, so that wasn't a fall. But they don't think about those times where their knees have buckled and they've had to reach over to the towel bar in the bathroom because the toilet was too low and, those type of things. They don't think about the times where they're walking into their sunken den and they're missing a step, those type of things. So again, defining a fall is something that is unexpected, unplanned, a sudden movement towards the ground, and it doesn't have to mean making contact with the ground, okay? Next slide, please. Again, falls are definitely a major public health concern, major. 1 in 4 adults over 65 fall. Out of that, every 11 minutes, an older adult, the fall results in having to make a visit to the emergency room. And sadly, every 19 minutes, someone that has fallen, that's 65 or better, that can result in a fatality. So it's serious business, and that is why it's important that people like myself and other healthcare professionals, senior healthcare professionals, we're making sure that we're having an open and consistent dialogue about, what people are experiencing at home, what are they experiencing when they're out in the community, because sometimes people can thrive at home, but then when they're going to the grocery store, when they're going to church, when they're going to the doctor's office, when the weather changes and there's slippery, wet leaves everywhere, the needs may change, week to week and season to season. So we need to have a consistent dialogue and discuss things that may impact someone that we may not see on a regular basis. Next slide, please. So these are some scary numbers. Some of them I just mentioned to you. One thing I wanted to mention in terms of with the falls, out of the one out of 4 people that do fall, there's going to be a high number that will fall again within 6 months if there's no intervention, if there's no changes, if there's no discussion with their physician about maybe changes in vision, changes in circulation in their feet. It may be something related to neuropathy. Any changes in mobility, arthritis, that's something we begin to see a huge flare and a lot less activity and mobility in the colder months because you're spending a lot of more time inside. The cold weather plays against people with any type of joint-related issues. So there's a systemic approach and breeding ground that makes some people more susceptible to falls than others. So, like I mentioned, it's really important that you're discussing with others, especially your physician, your therapist, whether that's physical or PT, or even if you're going to some type of gym or fitness center, that you're sharing what you're experiencing, whether it's pain, reduced mobility, reduced energy, or any other changes, so that we can get some referrals for you and get some help for you. Next slide, please. These are 3 questions that's definitely part and should be a part of all of your physician, especially interview or check-in sessions when you're going, whether it's in person or virtually, because these are some of the key indicators of someone that has probably experienced a fall or will experience one in the near future if there's no interventions put in place. So have you fallen in the past year? And like I said, also keeping in mind what the definition of a fall is. Do you feel unsteady when you're standing or walking? Very important, because typically if you feel unsteady when you're standing or walking, then that's going to significantly impact your gait, as well as your endurance, as well as your stride, and that can go hand in hand in terms for you being at a higher risk for falls. The key component I really like to look at with this one, I have a psychology degree as well, but we all know that the mind and the body are definitely closely connected. So do you worry about falling? Worry. Your mind will impact your action. So we have a lot of people, I have a lot of clients and patients, they may not have fallen, but they began to decline. Maybe they're having more pain. They have other things that are pressing in their mind that's keeping them from being more mobile, from being more independent. They begin to decline social invitations for outings because they're in fear of, maybe when I get outside of my home, I'm familiar in my home setting. I can, most people, we can walk through our house with our eyes closed and we can navigate through fairly easily because we've lived there when we know where everything is. But a lot of times when you're going to, out into the community, it's, uncharted territories. And even that changes, like I mentioned, going to the grocery store in May is going to be different from going to the grocery store in November when you've got wet, slippery leaves or tons of rain or what have you. So worrying about falls can definitely impact someone's level of motivation to continue to move, be active, to participate in things that they were doing before that were helpful and of interest and of benefit for them. So asking these 3 questions are definitely very essential to get into the next steps of what type of intervention would have to come next. Typically, if the answers are yes to any of these, and if you're discussing this with your physician, they should be giving you some type of referral for physical and or occupational therapy to do a more formalized assessment and evaluation, because with anyone, once you get those evaluations, it's specified to your needs, to your goals, to your mobility needs or ability, to your medical health history, to the level of resources and caregiver support that you have in the home. All of those things play a big role into your rehab potential and the interventions that they will put in place in order for you to become successful in the areas of concern for you. Next slide, please. Good news. We always need some good news, right? There's so much going on in the world. We need some good news. A reason why falls don't get reported as often as they could is because people began to subscribe to the stigma, the stereotype that, hey, I'm 80 years old. I should have a fall here and there. I'm 70 years old. I should be unsteady. I've been standing on these legs for, 75 years. I should have a bump here and there. And so with them subscribing to those, stereotypes, will become the reason why a lot of people will become more accepting of falls, accepting of those injuries, because they figure that this is a part of the aging process. And research and tons of studies show that this is not so. But it's once you're having those issues, once you're having those concerns, getting help and intervention early on is very essential. Like I mentioned, my oldest patient was 106 years old. Her physician still, had the wherewithal and saw value that, hey, regardless of her age, she deserves to safely thrive and to live her life as fully as possible. And there was support for her. And so that was the reason why she was referred for physical and occupational therapy. And she did very well, more so than some of her counterparts that were 40 years younger than her. So there's value, but we have to know what's going on so we can serve the underserved. Next slide, please. And so this was a study that I just wanted to share in terms of occupational therapy. As I mentioned, I am a community-based occupational therapist, so I go in individuals' homes, whether that's independent living facility, adult group homes, their private residence, and not only doing an evaluation of the person and their physical ability and physical needs, but also assessing the environment. A lot of times, because very few people go into the homes these days, a concierge in-home physician are far and few in between, and they make top dollars for doing that. So it's important with people like myself that we're going in the home, we're seeing a more intimate, actual picture of what's going on in the home. When I was working in a skilled nursing facility, some of our residents lived there, and then some just came for rehab, and then they were discharged back home into the community. So with a lot of those, you can do an evaluation and you get this picture, but it doesn't match up with the reason why they were referred. They've had, hip fractures, knee fractures, skin tears. And then when you're talking to them about, independence and safety and accessibility within the home, they're like, oh, yes, honey, I got it all. My home is nice and neat, and, I don't have any issues. But when I pull up there, you see the true whole picture. And a lot of times it's not that people are being dishonest during their interview, it's just you live within what you live in for so long that for you, it's not an issue. It's not an issue that you got 3 cats wrapping around your legs every step you go, or dogs. I've got 2 of them, so I know wherever I go, they want to go. So a lot of times it's not that people are being dishonest during their therapy interviewing session. It's just they can't see the forest for the trees because they're living in it. And so they're just leaving things out that may be a red flag or may be hazardous, but because they're living in it, it's not an issue. And so a lot of what I do in terms for home safety assessments is it's not cookie cutter. It's very customized to the person whose home that I'm going into. It's based on their ability, their needs, their goals. If they have family support, caregivers, all of those things play a huge role in your safety, independence, as well as fall prevention measures. So it's a lot, but it's definitely necessary for someone who chooses to live out their days in the home of their choice, whether that's your private residence or transitioning to an independent living facility or transitioning from living with your spouse to maybe living with your children and them having to modify, a room or a basement for you. All right. Next slide, please. So again, this just gives you a little bit of insight into what we are, the sweet people of the occupational therapy field. We've been along for a really long time. The first occupational therapists were actually were titled Reconstruction Aides in the World War II, and they were at what is the there's a military hospital facility up near Belvoir, but that's where some of the very first ones were. Walter Reed, my husband goes, Walter Reed, that was where some of the very first occupational therapists. So we're not new, although we're kind of the less familiar cousins to physical therapists. We take a lot of the same coursework, and ours is specialized with not only the physical functioning of bodies, but also we're a more holistic therapist in terms for considering everything that's needed in order for you to thrive. So it goes beyond walking because, not all of my patients and clients walk. They may be, bilateral, they may have bilateral amputations or what have you. So no matter what their functional ability is, there's still purpose and there's still life to be lived no matter what we have. So it's really important. So next slide, please. Falls and fear of falling, as I mentioned, greatly impact the quality of life and functional mobility. And these are just some of the risk factors associated with falls. Like I mentioned, one of them, diabetes, is very, very, very important that we do as much intervention and support as we can, because a lot of people don't associate, I'm diabetic with it's really essential that I'm not experiencing falls. But I've seen people that have fallen, that have diabetes, that have ended up with skin tears that never healed, that resulted in amputations. It's serious, serious business, serious business. Some others, heart disease, obesity, that's really hard, especially in households where there's limited caregiver support. There's caregiver burnout is definitely real. And a lot of times I've worked with patients whom had just one consistent caregiver, whether that's a spouse or adult child or what have you. And I've ended up seeing the caregiver as a patient as well. Even when I worked in a skilled nursing facility, I had sisters. One was late 70s, one early 80s. They lived together, did awesome. One started having some health issues. The other sister stepped in. The sister was getting treatment at the nursing home. We were taking care of her. Her sister was so faithful and came and visited her regularly. Sister had a fall in the grocery store parking lot. She ended up a patient. And then it was hard because both of them now, they're there, but they still need outside help to come in and take care of things for them. And so it's really important that, we take a team approach when it comes to education, falls prevention, caregiver assistance and resources, because there's no I in team, but there's a I in family. There's a I in caregiver, and we have to make sure that they're taken care of and they've got the resources, and they feel supported as well to give it a good go, but also to save something for themselves and take out time for themselves, as well as to give them education and resources, whether that be respite, like the great adult day program that's coming here at Culpeper, whether that's in a home setting or what have you. But it's definitely a team approach when it comes to caregiver support, as well as fall prevention. So that involves loved ones, that involves the person that's getting the care, that involves physicians, that even involves your pharmacist. So that's another fact. You are speaking with your pharmacist if you're experiencing some issues or some changes. Maybe they've changed the dosage, or they've changed the makeup, the chemical makeup of some of your medication. Those things happen. They're supposed to discuss it with you. Sometimes they do, but sometimes you get overwhelmed, especially if you're taking multiple medications multiple times a day. But if you're noticing things are off, like, hey, I'm a lot more lethargic than I was before, or it's taking me longer to move about, or I'm having an increased bathroom urgency, or things like that. These are things that can greatly increase your risk of having a fall. So keeping the conversation open, not only with your physician, but with the pharmacist as well. Next slide, please. And this is a great resource that's on the National Council of Aging's website. They launched a digital screener where older adults or just anyone can answer these simple 12 questions to get their falls risk score. And then it gives you some steps on how to reduce your risk, like as I mentioned, discussing with your doctor, your pharmacist, especially if you're having any issues in terms of negative side effects to any medications. And the beauty about this, you can do it digitally and it will spit out a score, and then you can email that to your doctor. You can email it to your loved ones. You can email it to your physical or occupational therapist, or either you can print it out and take it with you on your next appointment, whether that's in person or virtually, and say, hi, I want to talk with you about my falls risk concerns. I've taken this screener from the National Council on Aging, and I'm concerned, or I want to, see what resources or what can be done to make sure that I'm not experiencing any falls. So you got that resource. Next screen, please. Also, there's tons of programs and resources there's some great membership programs. There's one in Northern Virginia called the Northern Virginia Falls Prevention Alliance, as well as the Virginia Arthritis and Falls Prevention Coalition. The first one, of course, is in Northern Virginia, is right outside of Falls Church. And then the second one, that one is located in Richmond. Right now, I'm a member of both, and we have virtual meetings every quarter. And they just give you a lot of great resources on different programs that are available that I share with a lot of my clients and patients, whether that's, Meal on Wheel, Comfort Keepers. There was a great one in terms of last summer for seniors who needed fans to keep them cool. A lot of times people were going out and sitting outside on the porch, and because it was so hot and humid, they were still having a lot of issues. So these two alliances and coalitions are great resources. They have lots of free programs in terms of some of them that I wrote here. The Otago, there's one called A Matter of Balance, which is specifically designed to reduce the fear of falling as well as to work on improving activity endurance levels. Because like I said, reducing falls is definitely it requires a systemic, specialized, as well as holistic approach. It's not one specific thing. You just can't say, okay, kick your legs 20 times, 2 times a day, and then walk to the mailbox, you know. First of all, that doesn't work, and it has to be specialized to everyone's need. And then it would be not wise of us to assume that everyone has 2 legs or the ability to kick them. So we have to meet people where they are. I have had clients with no legs that are experiencing falls from the bed. So, and it's not just saying, oh, well, since you don't have legs, you know, just put up the rails on the bed and just stay there, you know. They want to sit on the side of the bed. They need to sit on the side of the bed. They need to stretch. They need to transfer to their wheelchair. They need to see outside of their bedroom. So we have to come up with specialized individual approaches based on what their needs are. And they run the gamut for sure. So these are some great programs. You've got SAIL, which I love. It stands for Stay Active and Independent for Life. Steady. That one is hosted through the CDC. They've got great information on their website. It's called Stopping Elderly Accidents, Deaths, and Injury. Tai Chi. A lot of these evidence-based fall prevention programs can be done standing or seated, and that's really great because it includes people, you know, of various abilities. Whether someone may be able to stand, but they may have, you know, impaired endurance or arthritis or what have you. So it's great that a lot of these exercise programs and fall prevention programs, you can do them seated or standing. There's one through Centara Hospital, the Safe Fall Prevention Program. That one's great as well. They connect you with a physical therapist to come up with individualized exercise, balance, and strengthening activities, as well as education on falls prevention and environmental approaches to reduce falls within your home. And a lot of these require a 6-month to 1-year commitment. For example, some of the programs like Otago and A Matter of Balance, they're offered at different fitness and senior centers. You can get more information from your local area on aging or your centers of independent living, YMCA, and a lot of these are no cost or low cost programs. And on the most time commitment, some of them are twice a week, and then some of them are just once a week, and then they give you kind of like homework to do at home to maintain what you've learned that week. And a lot of these also are offered virtually, as well as a combination of in-person as well as virtual. This is also important because it gives people, especially still in the thick of a pandemic, a chance to have some type of social connection with others. Gives them, you know, someone that is participating in the program with them to, you know, establish a rapport, as well as kind of have an accountability partner to say, hey, you know, I'm doing my 10-minute walk today. You know, if we stay in the same neighborhood, they can do them together. Or I've seen some that would meet up and go to a local mall or either go to one of these schools and just do a nice walk in the parking lot and the playground, or if they have walking trails. But it's really important to, stay connected because we are social beings and we just have to do things a lot more safely. But we want to make sure that we're maintaining as much physical fitness and activity as possible, as well as good, psychologically and socially as well. A lot of people are truly suffering in silence. They're craving human energy and human connection. You would be amazed of how many times I've overstayed because, people just want to talk. They want, especially once they establish a rapport with you. And so you end up running over on time because they're just, in need of a human connection, someone that's showing genuine concern to them, not somewhere to where, they're working on their tablet the whole time or, taking notes the whole time, but someone that's truly locked into you and for helping you to safely thrive where you are. And, sadly, sometimes it becomes a lost art, but, we have to do this. We have to do this. As I mentioned, I'm an aging in place specialist, and a lot of people think that that's just, oh, so you just work with older people. It's like I work with people of all ages because genuinely and honestly, we're all aging every day. My 6-year-old aging every day, my 12-year-old aging every day. So, I tell people that no, I'm an aging in place specialist. So wherever you choose to live your days, wherever you choose to, to spend the bulk of your time, that's what it means. So it's not specifically, geriatric center, although that's my favorite, age group are definitely the 65 and better. I like to say 65 and better group. So, next slide, please. Thrive at home is really important. Our home should be our safe haven. We spend a huge amount of time there, especially if you're retired, especially if you're working from home, especially in the middle of a pandemic with the uncertainties. We're spending a lot of time at home, and we want our homes, and they should be set up to set you up for success, to be able to navigate throughout it freely, to not be restricted from certain rooms of your home just because of, maybe those areas are inaccessible, whether it be to just the layout of the home, whether that's, just from excessive furniture or clutter or what have you. We deserve to thrive at home, and to have a place where we can easily navigate throughout and where we can, host. And there's a such thing as visibility. You want to be able to have people over of different activity and mobility levels. So, you think about certain things like, okay, if I invited my uncle over that's in a bariatric wheelchair, that's not a standard size wheelchair. Am I going to be able to host him in the dining room? Am I going to be able to invite him into the living room to watch television? Can he, navigate around my island to, fix himself a cup of coffee, those type of things. So not only looking at what our immediate needs are, and then sometimes we have caregivers with mobility issues. And so even though they're a caregiver, they still may need to have special considerations. And so that's a part of my training in terms for being a home modification specialist. It's universal design, universal. So we think about it, universal. So that's anyone of any abilities, of any age. Can someone that's maybe 3 feet tall come in and be able to, reach and turn on the lights? Or do they have to wait for me? Or do they have to, climb onto a stool or something like that? Can they easily use my bathroom and be able to close the door to maintain their own dignity? Or is my bathroom too tight to where it's too confining, or is it too risky so they're leaving their walker outside of my bathroom door and trying to slide in and get comfortable and do what they need to do? So There's definitely a huge need for more universally designed homes. And like I like to tell people in terms of we just need to be proactive. So a lot of what I do is a lot of education and just providing resources. And encouraging people to think about these things before you need these things. Because like I mentioned, we're all aging in place, and we don't know how we're aging at 50 if that's going to look the same at 70 or 75. And surprisingly enough, a lot of times those things may change. You know, you may have to transition to a cane occasionally, or you may have to consider, converting one of the downstairs room into your master suite or what have you. But a lot of times, if we can just come up with individualized solutions for your home and your needs, a lot of times there's a great possibility that we can reduce falls and increase independence and quality of life and satisfaction within our homes. Because as I mentioned, just like the name of my practice is for safety's sake, we want to be able to do and be as functionally as independent as possible, but we want to be able to do those things safely. We want to reduce falls-related injuries, falls-related death, and we want to reduce unnecessary hospital admissions. Unfortunately, I've gotten some scary calls to where people have fallen at home that required an ER visit that resulted in acquiring COVID. Some didn't make it from a fall. So we need to, definitely have these conversations, have them often, get outside professional assessments and help and interventions in place to reduce those things. That's why they call them an accident, because people don't intend for them to happen. But if we can be proactive on certain things, we can reduce and flatten the curve with falls-related injuries, death, and hospitalizations. We want to save the hospital for the serious stuff. But a lot of times, like I said, those falls, can be prevented. And we just, I just want to share with people that falls are not part of the aging process. That you don't have to subscribe to that. There is help. There are resources. There is support to help you thrive, not only in your home, but in your community. Next slide. As I mentioned, my name is Shaina White. I'm an occupational therapist. I'm an aging in place specialist as well as a home modification specialist. I work in the community. I live in North Stafford, so I typically do in-person visits for Stafford, Woodbridge, and Fredericksburg, but I do offer virtual visits throughout all of Virginia, as well as I'm licensed in Tennessee as well, so I do assessments there. I'm getting into some consulting for businesses such as adult group centers, adult group home settings, because I work with the community service board. So I do work with people with intellectual and developmental disabilities as well, and some of my clients live in group homes. So group home consulting, dementia care, memory care units, because if this is where people are living, number one, that is their home. And we want to make sure it's supportive of their needs and they're safe navigating throughout the homes. And it has what it needs to have in the home, instead of always having the individual having to defer to caregivers to do something that maybe if things were changed around a bit, maybe if we, thought about the placement of lighting, maybe if we thought about changing out flooring, maybe if we just take the extra step and the extra time and the extra money to put certain things into place, people can, truly be at home wherever they call home. And that includes people in memory care units. That includes people in group homes and assisted living facilities. And so that is my goal, and that is a passion project of mine. And, I'm just doing my part to share and get the word out there. A lot of people are not getting the resources they need because they don't know I exist. They don't know other therapists exist. They don't know that there's help. But definitely start just by getting the knowledge and having the discussion with your physician, with your therapist, with your pharmacist, to let them know about any concerns in terms of mobility, deconditioning, circulation issues, vision changes. There's so many things that will significantly impact and increase your risk of having a fall. So as I mentioned, we want to flatten that curve and get the resources, help, and support that we need. Last slide, please. And again, let's say goodbye to summer. And let's say hello to fall. And let's say, don't come this way, falls. Thank you all. And now we're going to open it up. If anyone has any questions or any feedback, Sarah has the mic.
Yes. So since we're recording, if you have a question, I'll just pass you the mic and you can ask it. But I wanted to ask one myself first. What's the one thing in people's house that is a huge fall risk that they don't know about or might just have lying around?
Throw rugs.
Ooh, yeah.
Throw rugs. Get them up, get them out. Even the ones that people try to secure and get the secure strips to go on the back, they're just a huge tripping hazard. I see it time and time again, and I'll give a few more. Thank you for asking. Throw rugs that's kind of one of those things, of course I asked their, permission, but I was like, please just give me the freedom to just pick up all of these rugs. Even if we have to go in and replace it with some non-skid floor strip in the interim, especially if they're considering changing out flooring. But those things will trip you up. I've seen people flipped out of their wheelchair trying to go over a bathroom rug or, an entry rug, the really high-powered ones. So things like that. Others would definitely be reducing clutter. A lot of times that requires outside help because something may not be clutter to you. You're like, oh, that's not clutter. That's my great-grandkids' play table. That's their toys. Or that's my, huge bookshelf of tchotchkes and, all of these things, or oversized, or either oversized furniture. A lot of times we need to pare it down to the essentials. And a lot of that comes from, a lot of times, if we have older adults that have raised families, your house becomes the memorabilia house. Grandma, keep this for me. Instead of taking it to their house, so their house is pristine. And then you've got, 25 years worth of high school and elementary school memorabilia, old toys and stuff that they won't take a second look at outside of saying, remember I used to play with that, and close the door and keep on going. So reducing clutter, a lot of times that requires an outside eye. And that could definitely be, maybe a family member or a neighbor just say, hey, can you just come and help me just, widen this walkway a little bit. I'm scraping my hand walking down my hallway, relocating, clutter that may be on the steps or in the hallways, that type of thing. Another very easy, very inexpensive change would be additional lighting. My favorite is that I tell people all the time, I have them in my house, is definitely going to be some battery-powered, motion-censored lights. Battery-powered, motion-censored lights, not the plug-in ones. Because what happens in case of a power outage? They're not lighting up no matter how close you get to them. So I say battery-powered, motion-censored lights. You can buy them in nice in packs of either 6 or 8 we have about 20 of them. And I'm going to tell you the places that we have them versus where I would definitely recommend certain people put them as well. We have them under our cabinets in the kitchen. So if my kids come to the kitchen in the middle of the night to get a drink of water and they don't turn the lights on, they're not bumping into something, because when they approach it I think it's within a 6-foot radius or 8-foot radius, once they get close to it, this happens. Important also for people who have dementia-related disorders as well, or either people that easily get disoriented. So it's really important for several reasons. A power outage. I had a lady, because I had seen her for therapy, and that was one of the things I recommended. Thankfully, her family implemented it, bought them, and we got them placed immediately on my next visit. About a week later, someone hit a telephone pole or something, and the power was out on this one side of the street. This was in the fall, so it's dark, completely dark at 5 o'clock. This happened like a little bit after 5, and my patient was laying in her bed, and when she heard the crack, it jarred her awake. And because we had lined the lights from the side of her bed to her bathroom, down the hallway to the front door, she was able to safely navigate quickly out of her house. She has a walker. So in her walker, we put a walker bag on the front of her walker to keep her essentials in there. So she had a cell phone in there. She was able to navigate to her front door, sit on the porch, get out her phone, and call her family and let them know that she was without power. They were able to quickly get over there and pick her up and took her to their home until the power was back on. But just very small inclusion solutions like that can make a world of a difference. My patient, she lived alone. What would have happened if she'd had a fall? She woke up, she jarred awake, she fell, bumped her head, or became incapacitated, and no one knew. Another one I would recommend is getting some type of personal emergency response system. We like to say Life Alert, but there's tons of them out there now. We know Life Alert because they put a lot of money into their funding with the I fallen and I can't get up. But there's a lot of great ones out there, very nice, stylish. There's different ones. Even utilizing, if you got Alexa or Siri, to get it set to where if you say, hey, I need help, that it either calls for help or it calls a family member or a neighbor next door or someone like that, something like that. Or either you can get the bracelet style or the necklace style to where you push it and you can get help, because time is of the essence when you're having a fall. Time's of the essence when you're having a fall. So removing throw rugs, removing clutter, improving lighting, and consider getting some type of personal emergency response system, especially if you live alone, especially if you let's say you live with your children, but they work during the day and they're gone for 8 to 10 hours and you fall right after they leave. That's a long time that you're at the mercy of time before you're able to get assistance. And most people think, oh, okay, well, if I fall, then I'll crawl to you don't know if you're going to be able to crawl to a phone. If that. So, ideally, if you fall, you may be able to do this. You may be able to do this. That's a lot less effort exerted versus having to try to combat crawl or grab to something to where you can get help. I've seen a lady, she did that, and actually she ended up hurting herself more. She had a fall. She crawled to a desk where she had a home landline because she was in so much pain and anguish and panic. When she pressed on the table, it popped over, and she almost lost her eyesight. Something on the table cut across her cheek. So she was still able to call for help, but then she's got an extra injury that she didn't have before she tried to crawl, to get to that phone. So, just incorporating just a few things. It's not rocket science, but a lot of times it just takes an outside eye. It takes, someone who does this, week after week after week to know, and to come up with solutions to help support you or your loved ones. It's not a lot. Yes, ma'am.
Hold on. Let me give you the microphone here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. The battery-powered, what was the rest of that sentence?
Battery-powered motion sensor lights.
Where do you get those?
Motion
Amazon is a great
sensor.
place. I'll let her finish and then
How do you spell sensor?
SEN
What is it?
SEN
Oh, now I got it. Thank you.
SORED. Okay.
I had it squeezed in here.
So
And-
battery-powered motion sensor lights.
Thank you.
I recommend,
Yeah, I think so.
Lowe's, Home Depot, Amazon. A lot of times you can get more for your money or get a larger quantity from Amazon. And of course, it can be delivered to your home if you've got Prime, as well as they also have a great return policy. So if something is faulty,
Right.
you can quickly get that rectified. But yes, you can find them
that'll be
at a
helpful.
Walmart as well. I've seen them at Walmart.
Okay, I have one. The second question is that when it gets real hot and electricity goes out, you run for your fans. When the fans aren't going to be plugged in because there's no electricity, do you know of any type of a gadget or, because my husband and I just said, well, I wish we just had one of the small fans or something with battery operated, but they're not on the market.
They have, if you definitely go onto Amazon, you can find them on Lowe's and Home Depot as well, but they do have, in that case, I would recommend some type of misting fan. When the humidity is thick,
Misting fan?
yes, a misting fan.
Oh.
When the humidity is thick, and definitely consider getting some type of generator.
Well,
Yes, sir.
I have the generator.
Camping supply.
That's right. We might even have it hands, and I don't even know where you put it. But the misting fan, that went with something else.
They have battery power misting fans, so that will be something
Okay.
great in the midst of that. So let's say the power is just, going out, and you can put some
That'd be
cold
great.
water in there from the the freezer, because that will take a long time before it melts, and you can incorporate that. I come from Memphis, so our heat is like no
Well, thank
other.
Thank you for
So hopefully
your
that helps.
presentation, and thank you for your input.
Thank you.
Does
You're
anyone else
welcome.
have a question they wanted to ask? Shanika, thank you for your time. It's been a delight to have you this afternoon, and feel free to stick around if you have any specific questions for Shanika, but other than that, we thank you so much. Give her a round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you all.